Follow the White Rabbit is a game that will teach you practical politics. Practical politics is called practical politics because it is non-voting, which makes it very, very practical. Conventional politics is, of course, rule-based politics, which is what you do at the voting booth. It's very, very rule-based and timeline-based, every 4 years, every 2 years, so on and so forth. And full-spectrum practical politics is engaging and taking out an opponent or a system or a corporation, so on and so forth, by any means necessary under the rules or under the laws, but never breaking the rules or never breaking the laws. But to understand anything, we first have to teach you practical politics, which is non-voting politics. The first basics are the art of staying on point or using a talking point and being able to say it over and over again to make your point, not arguing, just making a point. But this is an introduction again to Follow the White Rabbit, and Follow the White Rabbit is a game that will teach you practical politics. The title of this MP3 is Horace Goes Environmental. I've been meaning to talk about the environment and some different topics, concepts, and as well as some different blog entries that I thought were particularly brilliant. Since I haven't covered that, I figured we'd do that this time. And my thinking on the issue is best summed up by this particular piece: conservation and stagnation. 30 years ago, it was generally agreed that man would colonize space. Onward and forward was claimed by all political sides. But that was when whites were supposed to be multiplying to the Soylent Green level. Today, all talk is about conservation. A green movement will not only keep the world as it is, but will cut back. Each human born is a liability, especially the white ones. In short, by a strange coincidence, the inevitable future brown world is also a stagnant world. You would be jailed in Europe for putting these concepts together, but anyone with the slightest knowledge of history and geography cannot but connect them in his subconscious mind. There is the Viking image of the Nordic traveler and conqueror, and the ideal of little brown people who are permanently stagnant, and permanently oppressed. The future of little brown people who are permanently stagnant and oppressed is conveyed by the words Hispanic, and is seen in the great civilizations of the past who are now brown and fixed, apparently forever. They used to be considered a shame. Now they are considered ideal, as living with nature rather than opposing it, which by a strange coincidence are the same words used by the same conservationists to describe the virtue of other animals. Interesting. Dave has an interesting post in response to this. Yes, all these coincidences. Castro's Cuba is now entering its 6th decade of struggle. The non-white majority has got its presidents, but that is merely a milepost, according to them, to 80 years of ongoing and not yet and will never be finished struggle. According to the environmentalists, we face decades of struggle against carbon emissions and the very sun itself. How dumb can you get struggling against the sun itself? When the economic recovery inevitably fails to materialize, the establishment will certainly tell us years of struggle are required to debt our induced economic malaise. We white nationalists own our very own endless struggle against the non-white majority and our anti-white white traitor enemies. But what white nationalists need to understand is the language of struggle is a semantic domain of stagnation. And when you use the language of struggle, you are playing into the hands of the enemy. In his age-old Masanobu Fukuoka, one of the founders of organic farming movement, obtained enlightenment about the hopeless state of his people. He said, Japan's only hope is change from the creative energies of white people. But according to Masanobu, are only people capable of real change. In other words, only white people are capable of real change, for the Japanese aren't capable of change themselves. He went on to say, there is no advantage God delivers in Japan's lap that the Japanese will not turn into an unnecessary and endless effort of labor, cost, and sacrifice. Furthermore, he said nothing can possibly be easy for the Japanese. Everything that is effortless, in fact, they transform into pain, cost, and struggle through philosophy. He concluded they are the opposite of efficient people they pretend to be. For them, there is only one road, the hardest road, the most expensive road. They are incapable of imagining anything effortless and easy. Hardly anyone gets what Masanobu understood. Imagination matters. When you come to understand the importance of imagination, you are delivered into the vortex of power. The effective use of your voice to inform your own personal will, mostly through strategic silence, is easy. Winning arguments is easy. Spreading influence is easy. Defeating the depredations of corrupt laws and courts is easy. Dealing with tyrannical police is easy. Mitigating the assaults of the political system is easy. Almost without exception, the most effective road is the easiest road to take. This is the polar opposite of what the non-white majority and their anti-white traitor allies believe. For them, everything is hard, everything is struggle. And when you hear struggle, when you think of struggle, you are experiencing the world of stagnation. And I think that says it all. I was complimented by Truck Roy on the creativity and the imagination of this particular show, and I take that as a real compliment. But that is what whites do. They imagine a world in wild configurations, and they go and create it. And I'm going to talk a bit next about how the indigenous white rabbits of Europe want to view the world, based on Horus the Avenger's take on it. And that's we're going to treat everyone like the bears, identical to how the good white rabbit environmentalists treat the bears in Yellowstone Park. And I'll be back with that, and we'll go into that, which is pretty interesting. But that was an intro to Horus Goes Environmental. I was watching one of these animal channels. It may have been Discovery Channel, Environmental, National Geographic Channel, all these different stuff on cable. We have about a few hundred channels. But it was one of these environmental channels. I may have been National Geographic. I think it was Discovery or something, but you get the point. And they were going over, these brilliant white rabbit environmentalists were going over how they treat the bears in Yellowstone, the grizzlies in Yellowstone. And it was absolutely brilliant. It was a brilliant approach. You don't feed them. You don't adopt them. You don't hang out with them. You don't go running around sticking your nose in their business. Why? Because they're bears. White rabbits have no business fooling with bears. Now, they're nice to look at. You can watch them in their natural habitat, but generally it's non-interference. Totally brilliant. Well, we don't sell them. We don't sell them. We don't sell them air conditioners. Well, they're bears. They don't need it. We don't sell them fishing poles. Why? They're bears. They can fish them. They can fish very well for themselves. If they needed fishing poles or air conditioners, they'd build them. We don't sell them airplanes or AK-47s. It's a total hands-off approach to the bears. And it occurred to me, during another episode, I was seeing how these, they were white rabbit ecologists down in the Amazon. And I want to say this was on like a travel channel or something. They were visiting with some tribe in the Amazon, and this tribe was very spiritually sophisticated. But generally, they were treating them like the bears. Hands off, non-interference. These little Amazon rabbits, they look like us, but they're not white. They're not Aryan rabbits. But the white rabbit ecologists were taking a very hands-off approach. You can't sell them anything. No, don't interfere with their food. No, they probably don't need any of our tools. In this one particular episode that I was watching, the little Amazon rabbits, they had themselves some little babies, and one of the babies was very sick, and they didn't want to interfere and give it any medicine. They let nature take over. Brilliant. Because they were treating them just like we treat the bears in Yellowstone. Total harmony. There's no need, again, to adopt bears because, well, bears can be dangerous. There's no need to fool around saving bear cubs. Why? Because they're bears. It's natural law. Let nature take over. Just let them mind their own business. Let them have their own space. And if they get too out of line, every once in a while they get one of these grizzlies that gets a little out of line. They have to euthanize it or do something along those lines. You can't let bears get out of line. Sometimes those black bears, they get out and they go rampaging through the suburbs, eating garbage and raiding homes and whatnot, and they're a little unruly. Sometimes they have to put one down. But by and large, it's non-interference. And it got me thinking how well we do that. And this white rabbit ecologist had